It's my 33rd birthday this month, so to celebrate, I'm going to share with you the top 4 timeless life lessons that I wish I had learned in my 20s. If you're interested in philosophy for living a better life, pay close attention and make sure to stick around because the last lesson is the most important. Let's jump in. We'll kick things off with a powerful lesson from Joseph Campbell. The cave you feared to enter holds the treasure you seek. All the things that we push down or can't face, the things we're most ashamed of, our biggest life regrets, and our biggest traumas are all stored within our psyche. We like to think we have things under control and that we're running our lives under our own terms, but the truth is that all of these things we're carrying around are actually controlling our lives from the shadows. There will be glimpses where we will see this happening, when it builds up so much that it boils over and it becomes impossible for us to pretend it's not there. The anger we've been suppressing causes an outburst that sabotages our job, or the shame we've built up over our socially unacceptable impulses turns them into pathological shadow versions of themselves that sabotages our romantic relationships. We usually develop coping mechanisms that are good enough to allow us to function fairly normally, but that strategy inevitably always leads us to the edge of a cliff. What Joseph Campbell encourages us to do is to go towards those painful emotions and inner experiences instead. We don't even have to go looking for it. The world will present plenty of opportunities for us to face ourselves. For example, if we have a fear of being alone or of not being good enough, the world will reflect that belief back to us constantly. When we're triggered in the present moment, we can teach ourselves to sit in that space and see what arises within us. Instead of reaching for our phone or food or whatever our coping mechanism is the second we feel discomfort, we can take some deep breaths and see what's underneath that surface feeling. We must be gentle and compassionate with ourselves in this process and allow ourselves to enter the cave at our own pace, one small step at a time. Sitting in that space can be incredibly painful, but the courage we develop along the way, the ability to remain centered even while experiencing unimaginable discomfort, and the deep truths we learn about ourselves make it worth the trouble. The second lesson is that we spend far too much energy trying to control situations in our lives, or even worse, trying to control other people. This is due to the same fears that prevent us from looking at ourselves honestly. We believe that if we can make everything safe and predictable out there, we can control what we experience in here. But that is a battle that can never be won. The most freeing realization we can have in our lives is to see that our sense of control over the external world is an illusion. We can never control what happens externally. However, we can always choose what action we take in the present moment. Meditate on what is under your control and what isn't. While this will initially lead to quite a bit of distress as your ego desperately tries to hang on to what it believes it knows, the realization of how much time and energy you've been spending trying to control your life will be liberating. You won't have to think about it, just like you don't have to think about whether you can control the weather. If it rains, you no longer complain to yourself about the rain. You simply grab your umbrella or raincoat and go about your day. Perhaps once your mind is quiet, you'll even catch yourself enjoying the fresh air and being grateful for the feel of the water on your face as you step outside. Even the most difficult life situations give you this power. Will you choose to act in a way that perhaps feels good in the short term because it creates an illusion of control, or will you allow yourself to flow with the present moment and experience life to its fullest? Lesson 3. We are conditioned from a young age to perform and to project competence and certainty in every situation, and we're discouraged from making mistakes or admitting our faults. Whether this is in a professional setting or in our interpersonal relationships, something as simple as admitting a mistake or being vulnerable takes a lot of courage. A huge lesson that I wish I had learned earlier was the realization that I don't know what I'm doing with my life, and more importantly, that nobody else does either. Life is a first-time experience and a process of trial and error for all of us. Even the big guy Socrates himself said that true wisdom comes from recognizing one's own ignorance. Everyone has an incomplete view of reality, and we all carry around our cognitive biases, beliefs, traumas, and blind spots. We must give ourselves space to figure life out as we go along and to stumble along the way. Not only will we live more happily and be able to make better decisions, but being courageous enough to admit that we don't know what we're doing can give others room to drop the facade and live more authentically as well. Going deep into the cave of our fears and traumas, learning what is under our control and what isn't, and the realization that perhaps this whole life is one big charade can be a lot to process. But the one thing we can be sure of is that we are here now, in this body, having this experience. Which brings us to the final lesson. We can't choose the vehicle we've been given, but since it's our only one, it does bode well for us to try our best to take care of it. In this way, self-care and self-love are the very foundation upon which we build our lives. This doesn't mean doing whatever diet all the internet influencers are pushing or forcing yourself to do CrossFit and hot yoga every day. What this means is reconnecting with our true selves so we can determine what self-care and self-love means for us. The difficulty there is that we're all so disconnected from our true selves and our true needs that we're unable to determine what's best and real for us and what isn't. We can go online and find 1,000 reasons why a particular diet or exercise modality is either the best ever or deadly, and we don't look for exercise or diet advice because we want to be healthy and vibrant, but because we want to fit into some arbitrary societal health or beauty standard that we've internalized. As a starting point, cultivate the space between stimulus and response and observe how you interact with yourself. Do you speak to yourself in ways that you would to your child or a loved one? Is that voice in your head telling you that you're not okay as you are right now your own voice, or is it something you've absorbed from others throughout your life? Realize that your body is doing the best it can with the resources it's been given. If we can be grateful for what it does, then we will realize what an incredible and finely tuned instrument it really is. When a virus attacks my body and I get a fever, body aches, and congestion, I know that is my body trying to deal with the foreign invader. And instead of resisting the symptoms and complaining about how miserable I feel, I can try to tune in to what my body is telling me so I can provide it with what it needs to fight the good fight and recover more quickly. These 4 lessons have been spoken about in some form by many wise philosophers and sages for a reason. I hope that by embracing these lessons, you too can learn to let go of your fears and need to control, and instead learn to embrace the inherent uncertainty of life and enjoy the ride. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And make sure to check the description for more resources. Until next time, safe travels.